All right, we're back with another pick'em video. It is Tuesday, February 10th in the NBA. We got a small 4-game slate, but I got some plays that I'm liking for today. And we're coming off 4 straight winning days as well, so maybe 4 is the magic number here. But yeah, that's what we're going to get into for today. Also, probably going to talk about the whole slate, talk about the injury news, projected minutes, and things like that if you guys want to stay tuned for the end of the video for that, just to give you some more information. A lot of stuff going on in the NBA. We've got some teams just tanking. The Jazz just don't play their starters in the fourth quarter anymore. Absolutely wild. The Kings are horrendous. There's a lot of teams that are just bad and purposely trying to lose for the next draft in 2026. And then we also had fight night in the NBA yesterday. So we could see some suspensions and things rolling through. But the only team on a back-to-back is the Lakers, and they were not involved in any fights last night. So they do have some injury news to talk about, though. But I'm going to get into the plays for today. But first, recap of yesterday's video picks like we always do. And there it is. We went 3-2, so 0.88 units of profit. One of our losses was a 0.75 unit loss. Stupid play in hindsight. 2.5 rebounds for DeMar DeRozan. Plays 20 minutes in the first half and then doesn't see the floor once again. Just a stupid read. Honestly, went back and watched the video, and I was like, what am I doing here? Chasing plus money on DeMar DeRozan. Rebounds nonetheless. Yeah, weird one there, but we lost that. Zion Williamson, I think, was a good read. He just was in a massive blowout, didn't play much down the stretch, and I think he had like 18 points very early in the third quarter there, but just didn't track from get there. I think he ended with 18 points. But the wins were, great reads. AJ Green had 4 threes on a lot of shooting, which is exactly what we're looking for. Collin Sexton had this 18.5 points on an assist line with points alone. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then Tyrese Maxey, Embiid ended up not playing. I just go to the points there if Embiid's not going to play. But if Embiid does play, that's where I tack on the assists. That's kind of what I was assuming happens. But he got 34 points and assists anyway. Now, the only thing is he had 30 points and he had 4 assists. So if you just went to the points, that was the easier read with Embiid not playing. But we cashed it out nonetheless. So, winning day number 4 in a row. Love to see it. We're seeing the board well. Let's get into plays for today, and then we can break down the slate. So jumping to Props Madness like we always do to start talking about our plays. I got the first play up here. It's Collin Gillespie over some assists. 4.5 is the line. Minus 105 is the price. It's got a 50% hit rate for the entire year, but we got a guy that's out, Grayson Allen, and without Grayson Allen, he gets a big scoring boost. He gets a decent size assist boost over in 66.6% of games or 0.7% of games, and he gets a nice big minutes boost as well. Now, the reason I'm not adding points, because he does get a huge points boost in here, and I'm pretty sure he's over in like every game but one with Grayson Allen out of the lineup, is the fact that Jalen Green's here. Now, with Jalen Green in the lineup, the hit rate on this assist line doesn't look good either. It's only over in 2 of 6 games. But his assist average doesn't change too much, around 4.3, as opposed to his points line that drops around 3.3. And that's because Jalen Green comes in and he scores the ball. And Collin Gillespie can get some assists to Jalen Green, but Jalen Green is definitely a high-volume scorer when he's on the court. And I don't think Jalen Green's going to see more than 20 minutes, probably like 18 or less minutes, I would say, because they keep putting him in the lineup and then he gets injured right away. So they're going to be very cautious with him coming back in the lineup here. So I still, even though his hit rate doesn't look as good, I still think Gillespie's got a good enough matchup to get over his assists, even though Jalen Green's going to be in here. But that's the reason I'm not going to the points. But let's get rid of Jalen Green. Let's take a look again at Grayson Allen being out of lineup. Huge boost in usage, minutes, everything, potential assists. So I do like to see that. And then I'm just going to take away all of the, all the teammates that are going to be active. It doesn't matter who's playing. I'm going to go to his minutes projected here. Going over to RotoWire, he's projected for 28 minutes, but the low end's probably 26. The high end's probably 34. So I'm just going to go into Props Madness and say, hey, okay, I think he's going to get 26 plus minutes, which I can only see one game that he got less than 26 minutes. And this game he had 24 minutes. But without Grayson Allen, I think the floor is going to be a little bit higher. He pretty much gets 26 minutes in every single game. So I'm going to boost this up to 26 plus minutes. Hit rate jumps up to 53.7, averaging almost 5 assists per game. And we haven't even talked about the matchup here against the Dallas Mavericks, who have a high pace, especially the last 10 games, with Cooper Flagg kind of running the offense now. And they have no AD. They allow a ton of assists as well. So going to the rankings for the teams, the last 10 games, this is kind of when Cooper Flagg's been the whole point of this offense for the Dallas Mavericks. They're allowing a ton of assists, 28th ranked in terms of assists allowed, and they're allowing, they're the second highest paced in the league as well. So let's go to teams that are allowing a lot of assists in these favorable matchups for assists. He's over this now in 73% of games. Now, again, you can see these last few games are not very good, but I want to look at the pace as well. Favorable pace. Now, again, he's over in 77.8% of games. Now, what's going on in these games that he's not getting it, playing a lot of time and not getting there? Well, I can't see the potential assist, but I would assume it's just a game that's an outlier because everything else is saying this looks like an outlier. I'd like to see his potential assist. Could be one of those games where he had 7 potential assists and just they weren't dropping. They did lose that game by 9 points too. But I like to see that they're home here, and pretty much the floor, other than the outlier, is 4 assists and him getting much higher than that in a lot of these games. And again, Grayson Allen's out of this lineup too. If you want to put that into account, now he's over in these easier matchups without Grayson Allen. He's over this in a lot of games, 4 of 4 games, and he's getting a huge boost in assists. So breaking it all down, I'm going to Gillespie's assists. You could look at his points too. Jalen Green just might be a chuck when he's on the court, and if they share the court together, I'll just trust the assists because it's a perfect matchup for it. High pace, they give up a lot of assists, and I like the hit rate without Grayson Allen. So that's what I'm looking at. First play of the day, Collin Gillespie. Going to the next play, it's going to be something I have not gone to all year, and it's going to be a total play. So the point total for this game, the Rockets and Clippers, is at 211.5. Very, very low point total for good reason. Obviously, the Rockets, very good defensive team. And the Clippers now, with no James Harden, new look Clippers, it's really been the Kawhi show, and he's done pretty dang well in those games. But now they get Bennedict Mathurin in here, who's a great scorer. John Collins has been playing pretty well. Brook Lopez has kind of been handling his own, not on the defensive end, but on the offensive end for sure. Derrick Jones Jr., I was honestly looking at his over 7.5 points. So, both these teams are pretty good defensive teams, but this Rockets team is not as good without Steven Adams defensively, I would say. Just another big body down low. So 211.5 just seems really low. The Clippers have, I was actually just looking at it. The Clippers have gone over this in 2 of the last 3 games. That was kind of the new look Clippers. One of this was a huge blowout versus Cleveland, and one of this was a huge blowout versus Minnesota, and they just missed that line. And one of those is a pretty more normal game versus Sacramento where they had 225. And then Houston's side of things, they're involved in a lot of these lower scoring games, Charlotte, Boston. But I do think with Bennedict Mathurin coming for the Clippers, and you got Kawhi been cooking recently, both of these are really good scorers. Chris Dunn, more defensive guy. John Collins, I was looking at his 3-point lines. So I found myself looking at a lot of overs in this game, even though they're both defensive teams. So 211.5 just seems really low. You can maybe even find this at 210.5, but I'm taking the 211.5 plus 101 is where I found the best value. I don't have much in terms of odds in terms of showing you guys what I can see. But if you go to some of these players, like Kawhi is going to be the biggest guy for the Clippers in terms of scoring. And he's been scoring really well, 41-point game against the Timberwolves in a 19-point win, by the way. So that was a blowout. But he's got a pretty good pick and roll ball handling matchup. He can probably do some damage in that aspect. This team does not allow a whole bunch of spot up, but Bennedict Mathurin can also work by himself in terms of scoring, ISO ball, one-on-one, pick and roll ball handling type of stuff. John Collins is a stretch 4. He's been knocking down threes. So I like what this offense has looked like. And if you go to the defensive ranking for the entire season, they're ranked 7th. Last 5 games, though, they're ranked 15th, this Houston team, pretty much without Steven Adams in the lineup. And then if you go over to the Clippers side of things, their defensive rating for the entire year has been, middle of the road. So it's not like these 2 juggernaut defenses going at each other. And maybe it's seeing okay, the Clippers are a little bit depleted. They don't have James Harden anymore. But Bennedict Mathurin has not played for them yet, and he could come in, and he's been a bucket in his entire career. He's got a higher usage rate coming in from the Pacers now. He was kind of lower on that depth chart with Siakam and Nembhard playing really well. Kawhi's going to get as much as he can handle, but then it's Bennedict Mathurin. And again, he's not a spot-up guy. He can do some damage in other ways. And then for the Rocket side of things, they obviously have a lot of scorers they can go to. And with Brook Lopez down there rather than Zubats, I'd say that's a downgrade in terms of center depth. Defensively, Brook Lopez, huge dude. But we saw, who was that? Anthony Edwards just absolutely jam on this guy. Big body, but he's getting older. And deterrence at the rim, not as good as it used to be. So 211.5 seems really low to me. It makes sense that it's low, but it might just be a little bit too low. So I'm taking it point total. First time I've gone to it all season. We've gone to a couple money lines. We've gone to a couple spread picks, but this will be the first point total play. And we'll see what happens. And if you can't do point totals or spreads or anything like that, I was looking at Derrick Jones Jr. I think Kawhi's got a pretty good spot to go over his 28.5 points. Again, we're looking at an over anyway, so might as well look at some points overs. I was looking at Kawhi's 28.5. I think that's a solid play. I was looking at Derek Jones Jr. I like this price at minus 105 on his over in 65% of the last few games. I don't know how much Bennedict Mathurin is going to impact that. It could impact that a lot. But Derek Jones Jr.'s minutes have been pretty dang good, up around like 28 or so minutes per game. So I'm going to boost this up to like, let's say 25 plus minutes. And he can obviously put the ball in the basket. Really difficult matchup here for him, especially at the rim. But we just talked about Steven Adams not being there and their defense not being as good down low, just because Steven Adams' huge body down low to deter stuff at the rim. So if you want an over, I do like Derek Jones Jr.'s at his minus 105 price at 7.5. But if you want to just continue to go with Kawhi, he's been absolutely hooping. Next guy I'm looking at is going to be Andrew Nembhard, and I'm looking at under 6.5 assists here, plus 102, some plus money here. Obviously, the hit rate looks great on the over, but really tough defense. Probably the toughest defense to get assists, especially for a guy like Nembhard, who gets a lot of his assists right at the rim, a lot of assists right in the below the 3-point line. And then he can also get some assists, obviously, above the break threes. But the last few games, they've been really good at defending that as well. You can look at the last 10 games or so. They're ranked number 1 in terms of not allowing 3-point assists. So you can see that in the hit rate of the guys that play similar to a guy like Nembhard. Derek White, Monk, Ivy, Poole, none of these guys going over except for Derek White back in December. That was before the Knicks were kind of clicking, and they've been dominating recently. And Derek White had 5 assists in that game. Just positionally, how about one of these guys as well over the last, 10 or so guys this is? Peyton Pritchard, the only guy that went over his assist line, and he had 12 potential assists there. So Nembhard's assists have been great, but this is not a good matchup for him to do so. If you want to just look at the entire season, just look at assists allowed, challenging assists allowed. The hit rate obviously is going to drop off a little bit, but he's still been able to get over a few times. The next thing I point to is the pace, another just challenging thing here. Low pace just means low opportunities for scoring and lower opportunities to get some assists. So if you put those together, the opponent pace that this Knicks team runs with, the assist potential or the assists allowed challenging here, we're going to get around a 50% hit rate. And we haven't even mentioned the potential blowout situation here. With a really stacked draft class, they have no real incentive to win right now. So if they're down in this game, maybe you see less minutes from a guy like Nembhard. 12-point spread here. So you put all these things together, you look at games that, let's say, they've lost by a decent amount. It's probably not going to be too many, but that's kind of the thought we're looking at. How about just losses in general? Now he's only over in 45% of games. They're going to lose by 10 plus. He can still get there, but it's not looking as good. So Nembhard for plus money, plus 102. I know the guy's been diming up like a madman, but this is probably the worst assist potential or matchup you can get for a point guard like this. And then the same game, I'm looking at Jose Alvarado over his 7.5 points. Going to be his first game in Madison Square Garden. Was really an energy guy and played really well against the Celtics in his first game with the Knicks, but that was in Boston. Now he's going to have that hometown crowd around him. I think he's a perfect guy to play in a place like Madison Square Garden. He's going to feed off that crowd. So 7.5 points just seems really low. He's been getting it a lot recently. He should get the time in the court, around 25 minutes projected today, and that was a 22-point blowout. If we go over to this game, we can see a couple guys out. Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, OG Anunoby is going to be questionable here. So Jose Alvarado, they're expecting 22 minutes, but it could go either way in one direction or the other. But he should get around 20 or 20 plus minutes, I'd say, almost for sure. So 20 plus minutes over this in 55% of games. Then you look at his matchup. It's not really what I'm looking at. I'm more looking at him being an energy guy. Very, very tough team for above the break threes, but at the same time, he's going to be feeding off that crowd, like I just mentioned. So 20 plus minutes for Jose Alvarado. He's not going to be in, the Pelicans lineup where he's just not getting much time on the court at all. He should be a big part of this offense, especially with McBride out, and just a big part of the energy and all that stuff. That's kind of his main thing. He's an energy guy. He's a Patrick Beverley kind of guy. He's a Marcus Smart kind of guy. He does the dirty work, and he is going to be perfect for Madison Square Garden to kind of feed off that. So tough matchup here, but 7.5 points for a guy that's going to get 20 plus minutes in his debut for his new team. I like that spot for him as an energy guy in general. It's only a 4-game slate, but I got 5 plays down. Now just keep in mind, 4 of these plays are 0.75 unit plays, just because they're in the same game, and anything can happen. A blowout could kind of ruin some of those. But Collin Gillespie is going to be a full unit play, 4.5 assists for him in a really good matchup. No Grayson Allen should get a boost in minutes, minus 105, pretty good price tag. First time going to a point total all year. I've gone to some money lines, a couple. I've gone to a couple spreads, but first time doing a point total over 211.5 in the Clippers Rockets. And then if you want to go to Kawhi Leonard, I think over 28.5 points, that's a pretty solid option too. But I'm looking at Derek Jones Jr. over 7.5 points. He can get some points when he gets the time in the court, and he should get that today Hopefully Benedict Mathurin doesn't cut into his minutes too much and cut into his usage rate too much as well. But we'll see what happens there. Not a very high point line to get to. Andrew Nebhard is the only under on the card, 6.5 assists for plus money because this dude's been diming up, but horrible matchup to get assists. He had 4 assists earlier in the year when he played them, by the way. So even though he's got a really good really good hit rate, the matchup's not good at all. And then Jose Alvarado making his debut in Madison Square Garden to get some points, kind of feed off that crowd. So if you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and leave it a like, comment something down below. You guys have been crushing the like button. I really appreciate that. If we get this over 100 likes, we'll give away a free month of my Discord to someone that commented on the video. So go ahead and leave it a like, comment something down below. Really helps YouTube push this video out a little bit more. And if you want to stay tuned for the breakdown of all the games, there's only 4 of them, so it should be pretty quick. I know a lot of people get some information from that. And I do want to shout out Pickett in this moment too. Pickett, free bet tracker for you guys to use. Absolute no-brainer to sign up for it. First of all, using my code RichPicks, you get $3 or $100 just by syncing your first sports book. It's in the App Store. Just look up Pickett, download it. Use code RichPicks when signing up. And again, to get that $3 or $100 just by signing up, free bet tracker. You want to know if you're winning or losing your plays, and it's seamless with Pickett. So we already talked about some of these games already. The one game I didn't talk about was this San Antonio Lakers game because they're on a back-to-back. We don't know if Luka's going to play. He's missed the last few games, which would obviously change a whole lot of things. Reeves, will he play? He's not on the injury report as of right now, but it's a back-to-back situation. This guy missed a lot of time recently, so we'll see if he pops up in the injury report. And then LeBron James has kind of been missing back-to-back situations in a lot of these games. So I don't know who's going to play for the Lakers, and in turn, that's going to change what I think for the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs are 8.5-point favorites here as well. Here's the projected minutes for each team as of right now. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, Wemby, Stephon Castle getting around the 32-minute mark. In a closer game, they'd play a little bit more. And then guys off the bench like Dylan Harper, I like to attack, especially in not even blowout situations, but he can be a really good spark plug off the bench when his lines are low enough. Harrison Barnes been getting pretty good, decent time. Keldon Johnson and Luke Cornett, both those guys that are going to get spark plugs in 18 or so minutes off the bench. And then for the Lakers side of things, we're just guessing at this point because we don't really know who's going to play. But if you want to take a screenshot and see who's playing in terms of projected minutes, that's what you can look at for now. But going back up to Indiana and the Knicks, 12.5-point spread. A lot of these spreads are big too. That's why it's not the best slate in the world, and kind of why I attacked it with a lot of guys, but a couple smaller unit plays. But Jay Huff should get the starting nod for the center. He's the guy that always dunks backwards. It's pretty wild stuff. But Jay Huff, a lot of fun to watch. I was looking at Siakam's rebounds and assists on the under 10.5, just because this kind of has blowout potential written all over it. Again, Indiana is not a team that wants to win right now anyway. The Knicks are cooking. They got some new additions that are coming in there. They'll have the hometown crowd. Hopefully Jose Alvarado gets that pumped up. And this looks like a blowout. Zubac not going to be playing for this team just yet. And we attack Nembhard's under too. But projected minutes for the starters for the Knicks, we have no Mitchell Robinson, so Karl-Anthony Towns could be in a slated spot for a good game. Jalen Brunson, the same thing. Mikal Bridges playing pretty dang well, and we'll see if OG Anunoby plays. But Jose Alvarado is, again, that guy that I'm looking at where he could get a lot more time on the court than he's projected right now, and that's kind of what RotoWire has shown, a higher ceiling for him. Going to the Clippers and the Rockets, 8-point spread. So, that we already tacked the total of this game at 2-11, but I think it could stay relatively close. If it's a blowout, maybe we get cooked on that total points. But I like Mathurin coming in here, potentially being a good scorer for this team, projected for 25 minutes. Derrick Jones Jr. projected for around 26 minutes or so. Jordan Miller can score in a hurry. But guys on the starting lineup, obviously Kawhi is going to be that main guy. John Collins has been playing pretty well. I was honestly looking at his 2.5 or 1.5 3-pointers. Some pretty good plus money on that. The hit rate's not amazing, but he's been knocking down threes recently, even when he only shoots 3 or 4. It's not the most amazing matchup today for him, but if he's going to only shoot 3 or 4, he's been knocking them down pretty good. And then Brook Lopez is going to get time in the court. I know that's not great for defense, which is good for the over point total. But obviously his lines are a little bit higher than they have been. And then for the Rockets side of things, no Van Vliet, no Steven Adams as well. So this is what we got going on for them. Jabari Smith Jr. and Terry Eason kind of in that starting role, starting minutes kind of look. And then Reed Shepherd would be the guy off the bench that can be a spark plug for sure. And then Dallas and Phoenix to finish things up. Cooper Flagg's still running the point, so he's been their main guy as the focal point of the offense, getting a ton of time. He's got all the keys. Another team that I don't really think has incentive to win right now. Max Christie's been getting time. Najee Marshall, he can get some points in a hurry. PJ Washington's kind of been the guy that's fallen off a little bit here as the Mavericks have been kind of going youth movement. PJ, not a very old dude, but with Cooper Flagg and Najee Marshall playing pretty dang well, he's kind of been seeing a little bit less usage. Marvin Bagley could be in here. They don't really know where to put his minutes, but as of right now, projected for 22. So just a weirder team, again, kind of to go to, other than Cooper Flagg, maybe Najee Marshall. And if you want to look at like PJ Washington, he's been pretty dang good. And I'd put Max Christie in that conversation too. But then for the Phoenix side of things, no Grayson Allen, like we mentioned. Dylan Brooks, Devin Booker should be out there. Royce O'Neal going to get time on the court. And then Collin Gillespie, I think, going to run this offense a little bit, even with Devin Booker in there, can chip in with some assists. And I think he's got a pretty dang good matchup to do so against Dallas. So again, only a 4-game slate and huge spreads today. All-Star break looming, new players in new places. Injury news is always huge. So there's a lot of guessing going on in the NBA right now in terms of projected minutes and things like that. But the guys that I've been attacking over this last 4 days, we've had a really good winning streak, are guys that are kind of locked into their minutes, or a team pick like I kind of throw out today, or guys that are kind of losing minutes and maybe looking at under potentials, but a lot of more spread out minutes in terms of teams that are not really playing for as much, those tanking teams. And it's, again, a lot of uncertainty right now. So tread lightly until the All-Star break, even after the All-Star break a little bit, to kind of see what these teams' directions are looking like. Guys are going to get, projected more minutes than they have been. Guys are going to get projected less minutes than they have been. Look at like the Jazz starters or the Kings starters. So we'll start to get a better feel of that. But again, even with all that stuff going on, 4-day win streak. So we've been sitting on the board pretty dang well. And again, it's mostly because we're picking our spots kind of meticulously here. So that'll do it for me in this one. Again, smash the like button. If it gets to 100 likes, I'll give away a free month of my Discord community, which is a lot of fun. You get access to all my plays as well, to a random commenter. So again, like the video, but also comment down below to kind of enter in that if we do get to 100 likes. And you guys have been crushing the like button, so I appreciate all that. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Good luck with all your plays. Peace out.